Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode from Ball from Assembly Hall. Shout out to New Amendment. I'm your Christian Watford. I'm your host right here with my boy Derek Elston. Talk to me a little bit, D, before we get started, man. We had a great week in Chicago, man. Got a chance to do some things we hadn't done as far as with the Beyond the Big. Tell me your experience about it, bro. How you thought everything went?
Man, it was great. Honestly, seeing you.
Man, you know, it's always great when we link up, dog. You know that.
I know, man. I can't remember the last time we saw each other. Maybe my wedding. Maybe that was the last time I was actually able to really see you, give you a hug.
Real talk. Maybe so.
Yeah, talk. And, the Beyond the Big Ten, that whole setup that they had, man, it was unbelievable.
It was.
Like, I'm not trying to gas this up. See, the environment, the people that we had in there, I mean, the questions that were asked, the giveaways, just seeing the other guys that we played against. I haven't seen, a guy like Brandon Paul. Not Brandon Paul, excuse me. Getting in front of Evan Turner and talking with him. All the former guys. Stu Douglas was in the house. So it was just good to see some familiar faces that we played against on the court. Stu's kind of in my backyard. We've had a couple of lunches together, but just seeing everybody talking ball again, man. And, the 1,300 didn't hurt.
Oh, no, that definitely ain't hurt, man. It was fun, bro. I enjoyed it, man. I got a chance to go to both games. So that was my third game in attendance this year. So that was fun. Me and you went to the one. I went to the second one, the one that we lost, man. So that was fun. But it was a great environment, bro. We got some great people that did some great things with this event, man. So I was happy to be there. Yeah. Like you said, it was great going to meet different guys that we hadn't seen in forever, bro, and just hear their perspective and talk about the pod and how things have grown from it. With us and who else? I think us and Maryland have the top. So that was pretty good to just sit down and talk about them. And we just so happen to be playing Maryland. So shout out to Terrell for that, man. So that thing, it went kind of crazy, but But man, it was
shout
a great.
Shout out to Gio, man.
Yeah, Gio too, man.
Shout out to Gio.
Gio, cool dude though, man. He spoke knowledgeable about some things, man. So that's good. I enjoyed the whole thing, bro. But man, we're gonna get right into it. Albany, New York, we at? How you feel about that, bro? How you feel about our seeding? How you feel about the place? How you feel?
Man, a lot of people might hate me, but all year long, and I think I even told you early on in the season, I definitely told you there when I was there Friday, Kent State's really good.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm watching them.
In terms of me and you, they really helped our parlay. But I've been watching them all year long. I've told guys on the staff that Kent State is really, really good. And when I from the beginning of the year, I've said, man, Kent State is a Sweet 16 team. And then here's Indiana, the 4 seed, and I'll be damned if we didn't catch them.
Yeah, no doubt.
I'll be damned.
No, we were saying it when we was watching them when we was at the bar. We were saying they could be a Sweet 16 team. And it's crazy how that shit just, that's our draw.
It's just unbelievable. And in terms of us, and we'll get into kind of the X's and O's a little later on, but, when it comes to us and teams with good physical guards, we have struggled a little bit this year. There's been a couple anomalies with Northwestern at home when Jalen went crazy. But those bigger, stronger guards, we've kind of seen a little dip in our guard play. So that's the one thing that worries me. Other than that, I don't think those guys have an answer for Trace. I don't think they have an answer for Malik. If we can get past this one, I think our road looks, I will say, better than others in the Big Ten.
I would agree with that, bro. I would agree with that statement. I think it's going to be one of our toughest games. Every game is tough. It's the tournament. Anything can happen. It's one game. That's what makes the March Madness. But I do feel like we have a good road to where we need to get to. But anyway, we got a big dog in the house tonight. Jared Morris, man, we just want to talk to you a little bit about. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Assembly call in the building. Welcome to the show.
It is a pleasure to be here, an honor to be here speaking with you two guys. We launched our show in 2011, which was obviously a big season for you guys, the 2011-2012 season, which was just one of the most fun seasons I've been through. Right. So to now be on the show with you guys it's really cool. So I appreciate it.
Man, I appreciate you letting us get into this podcast business because like you said, you've been doing it since 2011. We knew in this, Derek, we're still trying to grow. So shout out to y'all, man. Y'all doing big things. We all take stuff, and that's how you get better. That's how you learn. You take stuff from other people and you apply it to your situation. And you know what I'm saying? You grow from it, bro. So I appreciate you coming on. We got a couple questions.
Absolutely.
Some typical type questions, man. What you think went wrong this season? That's what we're going to start off with, what went wrong, what went right. What you think went wrong with this season, besides the norm?
I think the two biggest things that went wrong for Indiana this season were things that weren't really in Indiana's control, which is the injuries, and especially the injury to X. And I think just, schedule-wise in the Big Ten, Indiana ended up getting one of the toughest draws in Big Ten play, and if it's just kind of a reality of an unbalanced schedule, that can be the difference between winning and losing a couple of games. And that can change your whole, especially for fans, that can change your whole perception of the season.
Right.
And so I think, a lot of what frustrations we had was really, to me, as I've kind of reflected back on it, was Indiana dealing with some difficult things that you couldn't necessarily project at the beginning of the season.
Right.
And I think for the most part, they really did a good job doing that. I think the one thing that we've been a little bit frustrated about or questioned, on our show from an offensive perspective is, this team has really loaded up on kind of difficult, low efficiency shots. It's a team built on post-ups and mid-range shots.
Right.
And if you're going to do that, you better have great players. And Indiana does have two great players in Trace and Jalen, so it's worked. But I feel like some of the ups and downs have been based on, there's just been some games, where offensively, Indiana has struggled to get into a flow. And I just think when your offensive diet is so heavy on those kind of shots, it's going to lead to some inconsistencies. And then sometimes that then goes over to the defensive end. But I'm also not sure that I would have designed the offense any different because you're playing to the strengths of your two best players.
No doubt about
so
it.
I've really kind of gone back and forth on it.
Right.
And there's just an inevitable math problem Indiana faces, taking so many of those shots. But you're putting your two best players in a comfort zone so they can go out and win at Purdue when they're clicking.
Yeah.
So, I can't necessarily say I would have done it any differently. It's just, you're going to have to deal with some of those ups and downs on that end, I think.
No doubt.
Yeah. No, I think you mentioned a great point because if you look at our schedule, you look at the bottom of the Big Ten, we played a Minnesota team that was hurt. They didn't have all their players there. We go at Minnesota, say they are healthy. They're still at the bottom of the Big Ten. I don't want to say it's an easy win, but we didn't get to play them at home. There were certain teams that we didn't get twice that other people did get had fortunate enough to play them twice. And I think, if you look, and Christian and I talked about this on an episode, maybe that comes back and helps us because as I mentioned to Christian in February, Nebraska had the best stint in February. They went 5-1. So if you were able to get them, I know we played them early on in the season, but if you were able to get them again, you would kind of hope you didn't get them in January. But if you take a loss to that team in January, I don't know if we're sitting at a 4 seed right now, but also, you take away our January completely where you get blown out by Penn State, Northwestern handles you at home, and see who was the other one. You lost a 20-point lead to Iowa. If you take those games out of our schedule, where are we at right now? I think we have an even better road in this tournament. So there's a lot of flip side of the coin equations that you kind of have to put into the situation. But, I don't think we had that luxury of playing some of these Big Ten teams twice that other teams did.
Right. I would agree. I would agree to that. I think it was just injuries that really just halted us, bro. I mean, I feel like if X stay healthy, we win those games, we win those close games where we needed to be, and we finish, possibly maybe win the Big Ten. You know what I'm saying? I think just those growing pains really hurt us a little bit. But, I mean, we did end up getting it going, and I think it's going to help us, for the later run going into the tournament. I think that's what we needed. But, we just went through those growing pains in the middle of the season. Thank God we was able to come out of them and win some games to where we still put ourselves in a good position. We both know that the Big Ten is just a rugged, tough conference, bro. Eventually, it's just gonna beat you down. You're gonna have injuries. I mean, everybody dealt with injuries that we played this year. We played some teams without We played Illinois. We never played them healthy. You know what I'm saying? They never got a chance to play us healthy. It's been teams, but that's what the Big Ten does, bro. And I think it's going to help us in the long run, us going through those growing pains for sure.
Yeah. No, I think too. I think there for a long stretch of time, there was probably a good 3 weeks there where we were kind of wondering what was going on with Race too. Mm-hmm. I mean, we had guys on, obviously Race is coming back from the Iowa injury, but I just feel like now, which is a good thing, but now we're finally starting to see a Race that's more involved, starting to feel a little more comfortable. I know at the end of the Michigan game, he missed 4 big free throws, which kind of messes with your psyche a little bit, but we were able to get the win. In the tournament, I thought he played really well. I thought he played really well against Maryland. We could have used a little bit more of him against Penn State. But I just feel like for us, not having X, Race going through what he's going through, that puts us in a bad bind, right? I mean, you saw Trey Galloway. Trey Galloway gets in foul trouble, or he is just not the Trey Galloway that you've seen all season long.
Right.
That puts a lot of stress on Jalen and Trace, and it's the Big Ten, man. They know what you had for breakfast that day at the hotel. Mm-hmm. Like, they scout you so well that this team being injury prone like we had been all season, you can't afford that.
Yeah. No doubt.
And one other thing I would add too, it's an interesting question, what went wrong? And it's like, well, we were 3 seed in the Big Ten, got a 4 seed in the NCAA tournament.
Right.
And so I get that maybe wasn't exactly what we wanted in the preseason. Mm-hmm. But, a lot more went right than went wrong. And I think it's important to remember that because, you sometimes you get into the heat of the moment and it's like, you lose a game here or there and it feels like the sky is falling. But the season overall was really good. Mm-hmm. I think the other struggle, and you kind of hinted at it there, Derek, is, the inconsistency of the supporting players, stepping up.
Huge.
And again, part of that is you're so heavy with Trace and Jalen from a usage perspective. I think it was hard for some of the other guys to find a rhythm, especially guys coming off the bench when you don't know when your shots are coming. And so I think some of that probably explains it. But, guys like Malik and Tamar, for example, who were really up and down, but have really come on the last 3 or 4 games, and have played much better. But just that kind of not knowing from game to game who you could count on, especially from a scoring perspective, has been a challenge. And obviously, for Indiana to keep going here in the tournament, the 3rd, 4th, 5th guys, whoever they may be, and it may be a different guy each game, are going to have to step up and kind of help shoulder some of that scoring load.
Right, no doubt. Yeah. We finished 21 in the overall ranking. I'll take it, man. I mean, we finished 21. Mm-hmm. I'll take it, bro. I mean, if you would have told me that from the beginning, I probably would have took it, especially with X getting hurt and dealing with the stuff we went through. I'll probably take it, bro. So I don't feel like we underachieved this season. Everybody got their, the Hoosiers always have high expectations of wanting to win the Big Ten, but I think this is a perfect situation for us to possibly win a couple games in the tournament. And get the, if we get hot, if we score in the basketball, I don't feel like nobody can beat us. You know what I'm saying? The way we rebound the ball, the way we play defense. Yeah. As long as we score the ball, we know, Derek, the guard wins in these tournaments. So if our guards are playing well, we making shots, man, we could go pretty far. We're gonna move on into the what went right with this team. I'll let you go ahead and start, Derek, about just what you thought went right.
I think what went right was Trace. And I said this to you a couple podcasts ago. I mean, Trace, besides that Purdue game, which I told you, Trace had that in him sometime in this season. He was going to perform like that. Mm-hmm. But when have you ever, Christian, when me and you played, you see Vic's, you talk about Cody's, you, Jordan, like how many times have we said, oh man, well, Vic had another 23-8 night. Cody had 36-12 again. There really wasn't that.
Nah, we didn't. We wasn't based like that though. We went, But,
exactly. Yeah. And I don't want to phrase it like those guys were just like unstoppable. We had a lot of firepower on our team, mm-hmm. but you never looked around the board. Like you can look at any stat sheet throughout the season and maybe he didn't play with enough energy that he did, but he always brought it every game. Mm-hmm. And I equate that, the reason why I bring that up is because I was on staff with him. Right. And his early years, Trace was a kid, his maturity level has just absolutely blossomed. And that's one thing that I think has really excelled this team to be in the position that they're at right now. It's a lot of it, most of it is on Trace, just his maturity level. When he was young and he got into those games where he wasn't getting the foul calls, he would just throw up a shot, throw up his hands. why aren't you calling this shit? And you pretty much just sub him out because he's not giving you anything.
Right.
He wasn't a shot blocker back then. Coach Archie, for some reason, didn't want him to block shots. He wanted him to rebound and get out in transition. Coach's opinion.
Damn, I wonder what the fuck he would have did if Archie would have let him block shots. He probably would have been broke the fuck.
No kid. But you see his growth from the beginning of the season, his freshman year, until now. I mean, you can look at every stat sheet and say, this dude brought it every single game. There wasn't a game outside of Purdue where you were just like, man, if Trace would have been Trace, we would have won the game. We talked all season long on this podcast about where is Trace's help. And I think that is one huge factor into why we got a 4 seed this year.
Yeah, no doubt. That's the main reason. You can go ahead and Jared and cue in on that.
Amazing. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, in terms of what went right, I mean, Trace just blossoming into one of the most dominant players in school history.
For sure.
Definitely the biggest thing. I mean, I think in the 12 years we've been doing the assembly call, I've had the hardest time analyzing him of anybody else. And the reason is because, he came in and it always felt like he was on these rosters that just weren't quite right for him.
Right.
And from day one, so much was expected of him, and Derek, what you talked about is something that we observed on the show too, which is, there just seemed like there were games and you could kind of see him coming in the first 10 minutes where you just kind of knew he wasn't going to have it. And it's like, even when he's a freshman and a sophomore, so much is expected of him. It's like, Trace has to be better. He has to be better.
Yeah.
Whereas on so many other Indiana rosters, he would have been able to be a supporting player and it wouldn't have been highlighted that much. Like Malik this year, right? It's like Malik's great, awesome. When he's not, that's okay. And Trace never really had that ability. Mm-hmm. And it's, look, that's part of the responsibility when you come in and you're the star. There's other things that have gone with that. But to see him now this year fully realize his potential, not just as a player, but also as a leader and bringing that consistency. And there's no matchup that's really going to get him out of it. Even the Purdue game, when he didn't score, he gets 8 rebounds, 7 assists, and is a huge, part of the reason why you win the game. Mm-hmm. It's like, you just wouldn't have seen that from him. And so, I mean, the A, B, C things that went right this year is Trace just, fully evolving into, the incredible player that he is. And then also, obviously Jalen has been a huge part of it.
For sure.
And it would be interesting to see kind of the alternate reality where you had X and Jalen all season long, and what does that look like? Yeah. Mm-hmm. But, Jalen's been in a tough spot as a freshman, having to take the ball and play 40 minutes a game for a team with big expectations. Like, that's not easy.
No, it's not.
And we take it for granted because he's so talented and so good, but it's like the degree of difficulty of what Mike Woodson's asking him to do is astronomical, which is why some of the criticism of him, I just kind of laugh at him because I'm like, do you realize how hard this is?
Man, I think so. Right. I don't think he would have had it no other way though, Jared. I think coming just from this kid, from what I see, the way he came into campus, just totally focused on what he needed to focus on. I don't think he would have wanted it any other way. I think sometimes stuff like that happens, bro. Like where, somebody get hurt and you just take that leap and you become you just become a NBA player. Like, I think that's what he did. I'm not sure what the latest mock has him, but I for sure think he's going to be, in the top 20 of the NBA draft, man. So I don't really think you can really complain about that. That is tough to do because I think he's had games where he's been up and down, but he's still like, as a freshman, you see like the potential of what this guy can be. He can really run a point guard. I don't know if we would have necessarily seen that as much with X being out there. I think it would have been, is he a tweener? Is he a 1? Is he a 2? He really handled the ball. He really handled the pressure. I seen it up close. I was impressed with just how he was able to really initiate offense. You know what I'm saying? That's not something that a lot of freshmen can do. They may over dribble. They may not know where to get the ball to. He plays real poise and he pick his spots and where he can be effective on the court. And I think that's just a huge testament of him growing as a player. And it's just his maturity as a player right there. I think he plays a real mature style of basketball.
I've seen a situation where, a point guard has come in as a freshman and, there was a lot of expectation around him and it just didn't work out. And for Jalen, not being able to have that piece that's behind him, like I said, Christian, for me or Christian or whoever, Jalen's been able to play through his mistakes. And if you want a kid to grow, it's kind of like the whole Trace thing. Like, Trace has been that guy, and he's always taken it on. And you saw some really bad, and we did. We saw some really bad from Jalen today or this year, especially the game in Maryland where he went 1 for 14. But his growth through it, it's like, all right, this happened. How do I get better from it? And, that maturity from a kid, from a freshman is just, it's incredible. Yeah.
It's incredible, bro. That's why I give him a lot of credit, man. I give the staff a lot of credit because I know they work tirelessly with him on that, man. And you got to have that next play mentality when you're trying to become a pro. You know what I'm saying? I know that's what he set out to do when he first got on campus. I can just tell the way the kid carry himself. He wants to be a pro. So shout out to Jalen, man. I'm not sure all his accolades, but I know he did get, first team freshman, or he got freshman of the year, man. So congrats to him on that. But man, Jared, what we got to do to get our role players going? What do we have to do, man? We're going to need them. What you think we got to do?
Man, it's a really good question. We've wrestled with it all season long. I think, we talk about one of the things that went right. Well, the internal development of three-point shooting. Trey Galloway got better from three. Miller Kopp got better from three. Tamar Bates got better from three. So all those guys are shooting a higher percentage. It does feel like there's a little bit more room there maybe for some more attempts, and to shoot a little bit more.
That's all.
And I guess that's really a question that I have for you guys, because one of the things that we've talked about a lot is, okay, like with a guy like Miller, who, has a little bit of a slower release and clearly isn't comfortable shooting as much, with a hard closeout as he is when he's open. Are there opportunities to, quote unquote, run stuff, right, to get him a shot? Same thing with Tamar, who really seems like a guy when he gets in the game, when he can get in the rhythm, he's really good. It was like, the Maryland game. He's playing defense. He hit a layup. I was like, he's going to make his first three that he takes because he's in the game.
Right.
And it just feels like sometimes that doesn't happen. And I guess that's something I don't, understand as well, and maybe you guys do, is are there more opportunities there to specifically try and get those guys, involved, or do you think it's fine to just kind of let it come out of the offense? And if Miller doesn't get a shot for 10 minutes, he doesn't get a shot for 10 minutes. Because I feel like it feels like that's area where there's meat on the bone for this offense. Yeah. But I'm just not sure with the way that they're trying to run it, how realistic it is to kind of expect that.
So you want that, or you want me?
Derek. I get it. I get it. I think it's a little bit of both, Jared. Honestly, I think it's a little bit of both. I think Miller got to do a good job at getting lost in the game better. But I also think we could run some quick hitters out of some ATOs and stuff, just a way to get him a look. But he got to shoot it, though. That's the thing about everything, whether, like, you're not going to be wide open. Sometimes he's open, but he's not wide open. You still got to let it go. Like, I mean, we kind of talked to Jordy about this type of thing. We was all in school like, Jordy, bro, you got to shoot the ball, bro. Like, you got to shoot. I don't care if you're a couple feet back from the line, like, shoot the ball. You're the best shooter on the team regardless. You have to let it go. And I think Miller wrestles with that a lot of the time just because he's not wide open. Like, everything is not going to be a swing shot. You know what I'm saying? And I think some games he comes out and he shoots 3 in a row. Like, he'll miss one, they'll be open again, he'll shoot it, he'll maybe hit the third one, maybe hit 2 in a row. I think he just got to play like that, play more freely. I don't know. I mean, I know nobody's over there telling him not to shoot the ball when he's the best player on the team. So I think he just got to, it's all about him, bro. I think he just got to let it go. Like, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes you get in your head where you want just a perfect shot. You want to line this up. And it doesn't really work like that, man. You got to let that thing go. And that's what we got to do, bro. As far as scooping him, I just think Scoop plays better when he has more minutes. Coach went to him. I was right there behind the bench. I seen Coach go to him early. He was engaged. He was playing defense. And, like, Scoop is a player that wants to see the ball go in, then he wants to play defense. Like, There's nothing wrong with that. Players like that all the time, bro. You know what I'm saying? So if we could get him an easy one, that you're going to get better production from him, throughout the longevity of the game. You know what I'm saying? So I think we should also try to get him going early. When he comes in the game, get him in the paint or get him something to where he can get himself and he can feel good about himself and he'll make shots. He'll play better because he's the one guy that, to me, that has the talent level and you know what I'm saying, body and stuff to really, like, we could go to the Final Four with him if he's playing well. You know what I'm saying? If he's making shots, if he's taking on that load. So it's a little bit of both right there. For me, I I just think guys got to do a better job at finding those guys too. I know we're heavy a lot, but we play through Trace a lot. Everybody knows where Miller is. Everybody knows where Tamar is. But man, those guys got to do a better job at getting lost in the game. What you think, Derek?
Yeah, man. I think sometimes with this team, you kind of get a good feel for how the game is going and whether you're going to impact the game or not offensively. And like you said, see, sometimes those guys get in there and they kind of just feel like it just from the outside looking in now, it just kind of feels like, all right, well, this is a game. Jalen's on fire. Trace is on fire. I know the ball's going into the post. They run a call for, whoever's killing that day. And it's like, well, I almost feel like I'm just kind of standing around on the free throw or the 3-point line and, maybe a bucket will come to me and I'll drive and put one up. But after watching the ball go into Trace and see what he's doing or Jalen handling the rock and putting up 30, you almost feel like when that opportunity comes where you get the ball, you put up a shot and you miss, you just had that feel of like, man, damn, like it's just going to seem like that's my one opportunity to get a bucket to go in. And I think that does resonate with some of these players. They just think like, all right, the game plan is to get the ball into Trace's hands and let him work out of it. And you almost feel like when he does kick it out, Trace is thinking in his mind, knock it down because I'm 4 feet from the basket and I'm double teamed and I pass it out to you and make your shot. And when it doesn't happen, it kind of just is like an overwhelming, like, damn, like I didn't do my job. And there for a while you could speak, especially with Tamar, like here recently, his whole game has been predicated on his offense, whether he's shooting a good shot or a bad shot. And with those guys, C and I talked about this all year, Jared, like the Devontae Greens of the world. Like you have to have those guys on your team because if they make one, they can make their next 7. But they could also miss it and just implode mentally because they haven't had a good game or two recently. So for me, especially in the tournament, it's all about just like you said, I mean, the tournament's one and done. So Christian and I talked about this, like
everything's
let go of
magnified
everything.
in the tournament.
Yes, it's magnified. Man. So let go of everything that's happened in the season. Try to come out and start fresh and just like find yourself in a rhythm, whether it takes getting to the free throw line to knock down a free throw or something just to see the ball go in. But don't come out in this tournament and think like, man, remember what happened January 20th when I went 0 for 6? Like that shit's all out of the way now. Like you have an opportunity to start fresh, to get into the gym. You've had a couple of days of rest here. I pray that those guys have just been in there just getting feel back to their game because obviously we're going to ride the Trace train and we're going to ride the Jalen train. But if these guys come out here and have this attitude of like, man, all season long I've been playing bad or I haven't been hitting shots the last couple of weeks, we can see ourselves getting beat because they're thinking about shit that doesn't matter, minutia, the little things that don't matter. Move on and let's go.
No doubt. But I think that's where we're gonna struggle a little bit, just because, we hadn't really got a lot of guys with tournament experience. You know how it is in the tournament, Derek. Yeah. I said, every little thing is magnified, bro. Every rebound, every bucket, I've never felt like that in the tournament before in my life, where every little thing matters. Yes. You get 2 points, it's like I don't know, bro. It's so magnified. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So you gotta be comfortable, but you're gonna be uncomfortable just because of the situation you're in, and you know what I'm saying. It's one game and done, so you're putting a little pressure on yourself. But you gotta realize, like, it's still basketball at the end of the day. You gotta still relax and play free. And I think we got the pieces to do that. I think if we follow, like we said, if we do what we do, we offensive rebound, we follow Trace, we'll be fine. But as far as our role players, they gotta just relax and play free, bro. I know that's so hard to say, and it's so hard to do as a player. But honestly, you have to. You know what I'm saying? That's the only way, because otherwise you're gonna just be so uptight and so tense. You know what I'm saying? So those guys need to see the ball go in, bro. Hopefully they can get a wide open look. Now, we're not playing in the Big Ten anymore. Maybe we can get a swing open look and we able to get things going. But I know Kent State going to do a great job at recruiting. They're not going to want to give us nothing. So hopefully we can get those guys going, man, because we're going to need them. Us making shots is totally dependent on how far we go in this tournament, for sure.
Jared, I'm going to ask you, what do you feel like? For me, I have my own opinion, but I think a big piece of this puzzle moving forward is Trey Galloway. And to be honest with you, foul trouble at Michigan, hadn't done much against Maryland. I don't know if he really did anything against Penn State. I feel like if we get him to play the way he's been playing or has played in the past in the Big Ten, I think he's the one who really helps us.
Trey Galloway.
Yeah,
we need Purdue Galloway.
So I don't know how you feel about him.
Yeah, I mean, Trey's just an essential part of the team. I think he was on Seth Davis's all glue guy team, and for a reason, because he just does. And Coach Woodson has talked about it. He does all the little things, and so you're going to get the defense from Trey. He's obviously our second best ball handler, and so especially with this game against Kent State, that's huge because they put a lot of pressure. I mean, we're going to have to not turn the ball over. He's been a lot better at that this year, than he was the last couple of years. And so, you're going to get some of that stuff from him. The two things that would really help, number one, if he can get some open looks. He's never going to be a high volume guy, but in a lot of our good games, it's felt like Trey has hit a couple of threes and maybe gotten a floater or two.
Right.
And so if he's in there scoring 7 to 10 points, that's really big. And a lot of times that's the difference between, winning and losing for Indiana. But it's also, just having another guy who can kind of be a secondary creator in the half court, because really, Miller's done a better job attacking closeouts and, kind of making some plays, but a lot of times it's kind of just Jalen who can do that. And when Trey's going really well, he puts pressure on the defense because there's another guy who can make a three, but also attack a closeout, get in the lane, make a good pass to Trace. And it's kind of felt like some of that has been missing, whether it's, and who knows? I mean, Trey's been a little bit inconsistent with some of that stuff. I just don't sense the same confidence, I guess, on offense. And that might be the wrong word. It's, observing from, 1,000 miles away. But if he can get back to doing that, he adds a dimension that no one else really brings. And that was kind of the ideal when you had Jalen and X there. It's like, man, you got two guys who can attack. How do you defend this? And I feel like when our offense is at its best, Trey's doing that. And so hopefully he can get back to that, especially in this game where if we're strong with the ball, we're going to have a chance to attack them, and get some easy looks. And Trey can be a guy who can do that. So I think he has a huge role to play in this game. I think Tamar does too, but it seems like it projects as a tougher game for Tamar because his ball handling isn't quite at the same level and he can struggle with some of that pressure.
Right.
So I think Trey's got to be really big on Friday night. Big.
Man, I'm rocking with Trey, man. I've been rocking with Trey. Trey, I tell people all the time, Trey, my favorite Hoosier right now on the team. I know he's going to bounce back. I'm not really worried about Trey. I feel like Trey going to figure it out. That's all about it. He going to figure it out. He goes, as long as he doesn't get in any foul trouble, we're going to have referees that, I don't know where they're going to come from. We'll see how they play. Trey's a big physical guard. He likes to get up and guard. I'm sure he's going to be, like that with this matchup. So hopefully we get a good whistle that let guys play, and we ain't really got to worry about that, man. Because I know that foul trouble stuff, it'll mess with you a little bit too and have you a little apprehensive on the offensive end and just about doing things. But we definitely need a great...
Did you guys notice a big difference in the officiating between Big Ten play and once you got into the NCAA tournament?
I did. I did a little bit. Syracuse was they let us play. You could feel it. You could feel it because some referees may be, I hate to say it, but some referees may be biased to certain guys. We get in a tournament, we're not used to getting like people may know Cody Zeller from the Big Ten. They may give him more cost than they would if, a crew that's never reffed him before, So I think that's where you notice the big deal. I think you just know the personal relationships of the referees. I think that's where you feel the difference at, to me, just because you get the same guys almost with the Big Ten, the same crew. What you think, Derek?
Well, I can't really speak in on the Syracuse game because I only played about 38 seconds, and I remember that. The T, how much it was, 38 seconds. I was actually pissed off that I got put into the game. But yeah, I did. It just is what it is, man. I could barely walk the night before, so for me to not even get in and I went in without a brace on my knee, so I was like, all right, we got it. But the year passed, man. Yeah, I think I think he's spot on. I think you get a different group of guys that realize kind of early on, and I know they try to emulate different referees from different conferences. So hopefully we would get a Big Ten ref throughout our little stint in the tournament. But yeah, I think when you've got a different group of guys who has, I think it's out there that the SEC is more the athletic league. The Big Ten gets kind of a rap for being too physical. So as much shit as Christian and I have been giving him all year, it's like you can't call every single foul. Like, the Illinois teams have passed, like they would foul 90 times a game. And it's like, well, we can't freaking call all of them. The game won't finish. But I think it's more of just like a style of play. Like if the game's up and down, obviously we're going to go through Trace. So I can't imagine that every single foul gets called for Trace. I think he's going to have to earn them. And to be honest with you, I want him to earn them. Like I'm a guy who looks at Trace and I'm like, hey man, there's got to be something in this game that gets you fired up. And maybe they miss the first two, then he gets a big and one, and whatever gets his juices flowing throughout the game, I think we need, because Trace, Trace is a great kid, don't get me wrong, but you look at him and you're kind of like, damn man, like this is like a big time game, especially at the end of the season where it's like, hey, you got your last two games are at home. You need to find a way to, in our teams, we would motherfuck each other in the huddles, and that's just the way it was. But you don't see a lot of that. And this year with Trace especially, there's been games where he's been hype, he's been excited, but there's a lot of times like he'd have a monster dunk and just walk back with a gloss look on his face, and it's like it's tournament time. So, we need you to step up in any way possible. If a guy's having a bad game and you're having a good one, do something to get everybody fired up and find a way to bring some energy in this team, because we're going to need it. We're going to need guys to not be able to take possessions off. You got to bring your energy from the start, or else you can find yourself in a 10-point hole that we found ourselves in plenty times this year. So it's just, I hope the referees have them earn it. I say that, and then I'll be yelling at my TV screen here, but I think it's going to be a little different for them, because
I was just about to say, bro. I was just with you at the IU game, and I heard you fucking screaming at those referees, bro. So I don't really. We want all the calls, man. If they're gonna give them to us, bro, we'll take it. We'll take it.
That's the thing, though. It's like we're no longer with the Big Ten referees, so it's not going to be a battle. So, like, a Paul Self knows how hard you got to foul Trace to actually call the foul. Other referees don't. So I assume there will be some fouls that are fouls that will not be called because Trace is just a monster.
Yeah, that's what they expect. If you're All-American, first team All-American, they're going to expect him to play through some of that. And like you don't really have that, dealing with that in the Big Ten. And we already get a bad rap about Woody not being able to work the referees the way he should, just because he comes from the league. That isn't what they really do. So it's gonna be tough right there. That's interesting to see. But I do think with our physicality, we will overcome that for sure. But Jared, I'm gonna go ahead and read your question, bro. The one you had wrote with us on Twitter. You said, since January 5th against top 50 teams, IU is 6-2 with 3 or more days rest, but 3-6 with 2 or fewer days rest. Is this a statistical coincidence, or is this something about this team that makes rest a real issue? Doesn't matter moving forward. What's your take on that, Derek? I'll let you start off answering that question. You think we need a lot of rest, or how do you feel about that?
I mean, if you looked at the Big Ten this year, it felt like the one team that seemed to just get a great game with a few more days rest than Indiana did in their schedule was Purdue. And I even told you on the episode a couple weeks ago, like, do we tank in the Big Ten? Obviously you don't want to, but I think with a team that's had injuries that we've gone through, we're fragile. I mean, one thing happens to Jalen, one thing, an ankle happens to Trace. This season is like, where are we at if one of those guys goes down for 2 weeks? So I think for me, the most productivity comes from the more rest that we get. I think it helps those guys stay in the film, clean up any injuries, any bruises, bumps and bruises, get in with Timmy G. We've said it all year long, but I think the more rest this team has, the more, the more they're able to just get in the gym and kind of work on their game and just, let all the distraction disappear. I think it is absolutely huge for this team.
I agree. I think, you always want, when you have more days rest, I think you always have to go back to what you do well. You don't really just want to put so much into the team that you're playing. You still got to make those guys do what you do. You know what I'm saying? Like, get back to being us, get back to our fundamentals, get back to playing the way we want to play. You know what I'm saying? With fewer rest period, you don't really have that time to do that. You go straight into boom, okay, we're playing Kent State here. We got to dive into this film. We can only work on this. That's kind of like what we did with Syracuse. Like, we only really focused on them, not so much of what we doing. You know what I'm saying? We didn't really get a chance to really, get back to our offense regardless. We still going to run our man offense against their zone. We're going to go in here. We're going to make them guard us. We're going to run the floor. Like, we didn't really get back to our key things that we did. You know what I'm saying? And the longer time you have off, I feel like you're able to get through those. So, you know what I'm saying? That's why I feel like you play better when you get more days off, just because you can really you can really dive into you as much as, you know what I'm saying, where, you know, if you play here and there, you really can't do that because you got to put so much effort into the team. And I think that's what, you know, just the silver lining of us losing that game, I feel like we was able to get back, forget about the Big Ten, you know what I'm saying, focus on what we do, make those guys guard us, because at the end of the day, like, they got to adjust to us. You know what I'm saying? We don't really, like, we have to adjust to them. You have to know their stuff. You have to know their tendencies, know their play calls, know all that type of stuff. But get back to being us. You know what I'm saying? I think that's what we need to do. I think if we do that, if we take care of the ball, if we do that, we'll be fine when it's time to, when it's time to advance. I feel like we'll be right where we need to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Jared, if you want to go in, chime in on your own
follow-up
question.
on that.
Yeah.
You know, when it comes to the rest, do you where do you notice it more? Like, so say that you have, you know, the difference between 2 days and 3 days rest, especially like in the heart of the Big Ten season. Like, will you really notice that physically or notice that mentally? You know, when you go out on the court where it's like, oh man, I feel so much better tonight because I had that extra day.
No doubt
like
about
a fan
it.
talking.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Yeah, no doubt.
Jared, you get an off day in the Big Ten. If you just get an off day, you just come in and the practices are just elevated. You know what I'm saying? You can just tell when guys have had an off day. You can tell when guys' legs are fresh. You can and vice versa. You can tell when guys are tired. It's going to be one of those days where you're just trying to get through it because, you know what I'm saying? We just lost a game. Now we in film. Now we rewatching the old game. Like so you don't really have time to process that and go forward. Like, I feel like if we get 3 or 4 days, you know, coach may give you a day off. We're going to start fresh the next day. We're going to come in. We're going to be high energy. So it really does matter, bro. Like, it really does matter.
Yeah.
What you think, Derek, from your perspective?
When it comes to resting this team, you know, I think Coach Crean, the way he set it up for us was really, really good. Right? And you know, off days for us, they were like gold.
Man, we may not know they was coming. We didn't know they was coming till half the day was over with.
Till about 2 o'clock in the next day. Yeah. But what he would do is when he would give us an off day, you know, it almost seemed like if it was a big break, like we had 3 days off day, then the next day we would kind of dive into just little clips of film. And it didn't happen often because Coach Crean was really, really big into film. But it almost just felt like that off day kind of just you were able to internalize it, or however you get everything off your chest. For us especially, like, we were able to just kind of like, man, it just feels like we just needed this off day so bad. And that way you go into the film session, you go into the next day's practice, next day's weight room session. I mean, everything was just at such a heightened level from where it was from the day before. So I think it was big for us to get a feel for just like getting our legs back, getting in with Timmy G, and then moving on with our days. And, you know, Crean was really good, and he was really precise about how he wanted it to look. And you know, obviously you saw from our freshman, sophomore, and junior, senior years, I mean, we were able to finally click on how it works, and we just rode that wave as far as we could.
No doubt, man. And I think just to pick back off that, man, I think when you got a player-led team and guys got days off, guys really not taking days off. Guys still in there doing something, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Doing something to get better, you know, whether it's getting your reps in on your own, getting in the cold tub. I think just giving guys that off day just puts guys in a better space, a better mental space about going to you know what I'm saying, coming to practice the next day. Whether we probably not going to take off. Like, you're probably coming there and do something. Guys that don't play that many minutes, you might come in, you might get on a treadmill, you might lift, you know what I'm saying? You might do a lot of different things, but it still clears your mind a little bit, and you're able to go into the next practice with just a clear mind and just a higher focus. So I think those, those few days matter, man, for sure. What's the next question? We got another question with guys. Just want to talk about the Big Ten, man. We got. I think we tied with the SEC for 8 teams in this year. We always usually get about 8 or 9 in, but we just hadn't been able to win as a conference. We just hadn't been able to get to the championship and win, man. So I just want to talk a little bit about why you guys think that, Derek. We'll talk about why you think that, Jared, and we'll kind of go from there. But we can start off with you, Jared. Why you think the Big Ten just hasn't been successful as we should be, in the tournament?
Man, it's such an interesting question, and it's been batted around so much, and there's so many different ideas about it. I look at it 2 ways. One, I think the Big Ten's been better in the tournament than people give it credit for. And I think it's 16 or 17 Final Fours since Michigan State won it in 2000. Including one by Indiana in 2002, and they've made some championship games. And Wisconsin was playing great, and the second half didn't go quite as well for them against Duke for reasons. So I think part of it is there's a little bit of bad luck to have that many Final Four teams and not get over the hump, but I don't think it's quite that simple. I think the other thing is just the talent level. I mean, it's just the fact that the Big Ten's not getting as many McDonald's All-Americans. And we know that recruiting is a bit of a crapshoot, but at the end of the day, like a lot of times, those top 20, 25 guys are there for a reason, and they always seem to be the kinds of players that you see playing in the Final Four, tall athletes that can do a lot of different things on the court. And the Big Ten just hasn't had a lot of those guys. They've got teams like Purdue, right, which Purdue's a really good regular season team, built around a good big guy, but look around the wings. Like, those aren't typically the types of players that you see in Final Fours. So I think it really comes down to those couple things. Part of it is just bad luck, and part of it is just the Big Ten hasn't been quite as good at getting the high-end talent. Now, that's a whole other discussion for why that might be. But I think, at the end of the day, I mean, basketball, usually the team with the best player or the best couple of players wins in basketball. Yeah. And I just think the Big Ten, as they get deeper in the tournament, end up on the wrong side of that equation too often.
Right. That was what I was going to go with. See, I think you said it best. I mean, Ernest even chimed in, the Jimmys and the Joes,
no
baby.
Doubt.
I haven't seen a team really. I guess you could throw in our 2016 Indiana team where they just had Troy, Yogi. They had OG, Juwan, Thomas Bryant. I mean, they had some big names and some just studs on that team. And since then, I mean, you haven't really seen this Big Ten just absolute dominant team until, I think maybe the Carson Edwards Purdue team was a really, really good team that they put together. But I think a lot of it also has to do with just like this season, man. I mean, look at Rutgers at the end of the season going into Minnesota and just getting beat. I think it's just, we put out a really, really good product. And that's not to say that the ACC or the Big 12 doesn't, but like, look at the ACC this year. I mean, it's not to say you're walking through it, but the SEC, you're getting a lot of teams where it's almost like, man, if we're clicking on all cylinders, this is kind of an off day for us. Like, this is an easy 12 to 15 point win, and let's get the hell out of here, get our pizza and get on the bus. So I think a lot of it is every single night you're walking into a Northwestern, you're walking into a Rutgers, you're walking into Nebraska, who's upsetting a lot of people. You've got the Michigan States, the Michigans, us. Ohio State was down this year, but still it wasn't a gimme game. Like, it's just a battle every single night. And when you get to the tournament, I don't want to say you're exhausted, but you're just like, man, this has just been a really long season.
I agree, both of y'all, man. I think the Big Ten just at the end of the day, bro, you get exhausted. But I also think, it's like being in a boxing match. Styles make fights. You know what I'm saying? And Big Ten is we're so headstrong on one way that very few Big Ten teams can win in a lot of different ways. Very few Big Tens have big wings that can control the game, you can throw the ball to, initiate offense through. I think just the dynamic of the Big Ten is just totally different. And I think it's been just some bad luck there. I feel like we had bad luck. My senior year, we ran into a zone where we couldn't really, was dealing with guys banged up. So it's just the luck of the draw sometime, man. So we didn't have a hard time with that, bro. And hopefully we able to change that this year, man. Hopefully we get a Big Ten team in there to really do something, man. But that's a tough question for sure. That's a tough question.
Yeah, that's tough.
Man, we can move on a little bit, bro. We've been talking about it a little bit. I just want to, Jared, talk to you a little bit about Kent State, man. What you see? What? I don't know if you really dove into them as a team, but what scouting report? What you think about the Kent State?
I did. I think Kent State's a really interesting team. Everybody that you talk to, we had the good fortune on our podcast. Akron has a guy who grew up in Noblesville, was a huge Indiana fan, now plays at Akron. So he's played Kent State 6 times, but still a big IU fan. So he came on our podcast and really echoed what everybody else has basically said about Kent State, which is they're really tough. They're not going to be intimidated.
Yeah.
They kind of want you to know that they're not intimidated. So, they're going to be, kind of in your face. That's how they defend. And they've got experienced guards who don't shoot a real high percentage, but have a knack for making big shots.
Yeah.
They got a guy off the bench in Sullinger who's, kind of a microwave scorer and can come in and make threes. And so I think, you hear all that, and I think it's very warranted to be concerned about this game. And Derek laid it out at the beginning, talking about how good they are and kind of penciling them in as a Sweet 16 team until saw they're playing us.
Played us, yeah.
Yeah. So so the first 24 hours after the draw, I was kind of like, man, this is a really tough matchup. And it is. And if we come out and are just turning the ball over left and right and kind of doing our casual ball handling thing, it could be troublesome.
Yeah.
But the flip side is, this team has played, as we said, they've played really well on rest, and they're going to have at least 5 days rest. And all their best performances this year have come, with that kind of rest. And, Jalen's got to be mindful of his ball handling, but he's also like 4 or 5 inches taller than both of these guards. Yeah. So even if they're harassing him, he'll be able to see over and make passes. And they've got no one to handle Trace. In the Gonzaga game, which they almost won, Drew Timme just took it over at the end of the game, finished with like 30 points and 17 boards, something like that. And so to me, it feels like a game that's going to be really tough. We'll probably be down early. Everybody will be worried. And I just feel like the last 10 minutes, it's kind of a game where if Trace says we're not going to lose, I don't think we're going to lose.
Yeah.
And at this point in his career, I trust him to do that. So a lot of reasons to be worried, but I think also some good reasons for Indiana fans to feel confident, because I think we're the better team. We just have to go out and show it.
Right. Yeah, I think for me, it's I've got my reasonings. I've watched those guys all year, talked to a lot of people about them. They do have some junkyard dogs, but like Jared said, and I said at the beginning of the episode, there is no one to stop Trace. There really just isn't. Obviously they have they shoot 30% from 3. Don't make them a high clip, but can also make them. So it just bothers me. It worries me because there for a while in the beginning of the year, especially our help defense, it just felt like we would collapse for no reason and give up the open 3. And that's kind of how I feel like they're going to be able to stay in this game a little bit. But at the end of the day, everybody talks about their good games against Gonzaga, their good game against Houston, but also they just got beat by 20 points to Michael Lewis and Ball State, which could be said for us too. We've looked really, really good against some teams and really, really bad against others. But when you're losing a 20 against Ball State, that gives you that little hope of just like Jared said, if Trace decides we're not going to lose this game, they just don't have anybody to play with him. Get Jalen going, get some of these key pieces to get a couple buckets, and it's a game where I think we should win. But again, we lay off the gas a little bit, and we could be in a dogfight.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing, but I think we just got to come out and just smack them in the mouth. I know that's going to be tough just because they've played high level talent, but I think our size is really just going to mess with them, bro. If we just hit the glass, we just dominate the paint, I think we'll eventually just wear them down. And those guys will eventually, feel like they can't really play with us, man. So I know y'all doing this scout, Coach Y'all doing this scout. I've talked to him a little bit about it. And he just said, man, we just got to come out aggressive from the start, offensively and defensively. Set the tone, be physical, dominate the paint, defend, and we'll be all right. I think if we stick with what we do, which is dominating the paint and rebounding the basketball, I just don't think it's no way. I don't think there's no way that they will beat us. I know if it's, obviously if it gets late in the game, they got a lot of guys that can hit big shots. So you just don't want to have it close. At the end of the game, you don't want to be in a situation where they can. It's March. You don't want to have it's March moment with Kent State, man. So we just got to dominate the paint. Trace will probably go crazy, but I'm sure they're expecting that. I'm sure their plan is to probably let Trace get whatever he get, try to neutralize everybody else, not let everybody else go crazy. But I think it's going to be big on Race and Malik as well, man, and just dominate the paint, control everything, and play to our strengths. You know what I'm saying? I think if we do that, we'll be fine. We'll be fine.
Yeah.
I think it's a game where Jalen has to stay out of foul trouble too, for a lot of reasons, because he's so important. But especially in this game with their pressure, I don't think we want to have long stretches with Trey and Tamar, who have strengths, but ball handling against real pressure defense. Like in a game like that, I'm curious. I mean, will a coach kind of tell Jalen, like, hey, you may need to back off a little bit on defense because in this game we cannot afford you getting in foul trouble because of how they're playing? Or is that something that wouldn't be addressed and you just let him play his game?
I don't know if it'd be addressed. I know being in the locker room there, it was almost like we're going to put someone else on who Jalen would usually guard. Obviously, they're guard heavy, so Jalen's going to have to guard a guard. I don't necessarily think you put him on their main guard. I think it's a Galloway thing. And to be honest with you, if everybody does their job, we win the game. So if Galloway doesn't score for us, but he is able to shut down their top guy, I forget his last name. Carey. If he's able to if he's able to shut down Carey, at least hold him to whatever the number is, get him under his average. I think that's the way to do it. I think it's to put someone else on the top dog and let Jalen not necessarily take a step back on defense, but let him feel like, okay, if I get a foul, it's not going to bother me here. Like I'm not in this situation where this guy's controlling the ball the whole game and I picked up a foul with 17 minutes left to go in the first. Like, put him on someone else and let him play the game freely.
Right.
Yeah.
I would agree, Dad. And I agree, Jared. We definitely can't have him get in foul trouble just because he's our only, fluent ball handler that can really initiate offense. Galloway and them can do it for a period of time. But, those guys, those mid-major guys, bro, they're going to always get under you, try to speed you up, try to make you play at their pace. That's just how mid-majors play, bro. And it's crazy, man. Yeah. But, man, we appreciate you coming on, Jared. It's always simply call, man.
Man, this is my pleasure. Man. This is great.
You let us know when you need us, bro. We'll be available for you, man. We appreciate you coming on. It's just going to conclude our episode.
Absolutely.
So, you guys go follow us on all platforms, man. We here. We'll be tuned in when we play Friday. We got a Friday.
Friday at 9:55.
Friday night, 9:55. I'm not sure what TBS, TNT, or True. I'm not sure which one it is. I got to look and see. But, man, we'll be tuned in for sure. We'll revisit this thing. Hopefully we have another week to do this because, we're going to go until we're done, man. So you guys follow us on all social networks. We got a bracket out there. You guys join our bracket. And that's it, man. That concludes it.
Beyond the Big Ten is a network of podcasts that aims to be your go-to resource for all things Big Ten. We cover the entire conference with shows hosted by ex-players and athletic alumni, aiming to be your go-to source of information and entertainment for your favorite team. Hosted by ex-Big Ten players, media, and insiders, our podcasts are focused on giving diehard fans and those alums an inside scoop about the teams and people that make the Big Ten Conference one of the most watched and most talked about conferences in sports. We're excited to talk Big Ten basketball with you wherever you may be. Subscribe now.